Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. I'm coming to you guys with another Harley-Davidson Find Your Freedom Intern interview. I'm finding these things to be incredibly fascinating. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and just let my next guest introduce himself, and here we go.
Hi, I'm Tony. I'm Tony the Biker on Instagram and all of that, if you've seen that. And I was part of the Harley-Davidson Find Your Freedom internship back in 2018. After that, I went on to continue my journey with Harley, and so I'm now working as a mechanic at a dealership. I previously worked in sales, and mechanics has always been my passion, and that was where I wanted to end up, and that's where I am now.
So you were one of the 8 interns that were selected back in 2018, where Harley-Davidson just basically picked 8 people from all kinds of different walks of life, different locations. You are in the UK?
So basically there were 6 interns in the US, and then there was myself and another girl called Charlie, who was she's originally from South Africa, but she was based in Amsterdam.
I'm out here with the bike with Charlie and her drone in gorgeous sunny Prague, and this is life.
Now, you guys that were overseas, were you here for that full 3 months, or did you have a bike here in the US, or did you have your bike there in the UK and do all your content in the UK?
For the duration of the internship, I was stationed, or whatever you want to call it, in Europe. So I grew up in London, and London was my base for the duration of the internship. Originally, the plan was I wasn't actually going to go to the US at all. Because of the fact that I'd been involved in motorcycling for quite a while before I was an intern, I had quite a lot of insights to offer of what people thought about the brand. And so whereas some of the other interns, because they were completely new to motorcycling, they were new to Harley, they didn't have that sort of long-term experience, as it were. And so, yeah, they were really happy with the feedback that I was able to provide. And they invited me out very graciously to Milwaukee to come and present some of those ideas and those findings. I wasn't supposed to be at the 115th rally in Milwaukee. And after meeting everyone, I said, "There's no way that I'm missing that." So I had to be there for it.
You were also kind of, as you said, one of the only interns that really was into the brand before this whole thing started, which I thought was interesting, that Harley didn't just go and pick a bunch of people that have never really identified with the brand. They really did a good job of covering all of the bases, and you were the base of, hey, I've done this before. I already kind of live the brand, and you've gone on to, as you say, you're working at a Harley dealership, wrenching on Harleys, and now this is part of really who you've become. And are you working at Sykes? Is that right?
Yeah. So it was it was formerly Shaw's Harley-Davidson, home of Speed and Custom, and that was where Speed and Custom has got this incredible reputation that goes back, over a decade of building really awesome custom bikes. And custom bikes was what sort of got me, I don't even know how to explain it, but basically I still remember, like, ever since I was a kid, I always loved motorbikes. I always wanted a bike. No one else in my family rides. No one else has any interest in motorcycles at all. So I bought my first motorcycle without telling my parents. I showed up at the house. I went, I got what's called a CVT, which is like a motorcycle endorsement for a small motorcycle that you can get when you're 17 here. I bought myself a little 125cc Chinese motorbike. I bought myself brand new helmet, leathers, everything. I was working like a summer job, and basically as soon as I turned 17 and I could get that bike license, I was on it. And I showed up at my mum's house with it one day. And she was like, "Who the fuck's motorcycle is this?"
Sounds about right.
Yeah, like, honestly, hats off to my mum how she didn't murder me. But she went mental. She didn't speak to me for about 2 weeks, poor thing. And then, probably about 4 years later, I did the same thing. I did the same thing again, basically. While I was at university, I was saving up all of my money, and I just had it in mind that I wanted to get a Sportster. I bought the Sportster. I showed up at the house with it one day, and I hadn't told her. I was living back home for the summer at the time, and all of a sudden the reaction was completely different. It wasn't the, "Oh my God, you're going to kill yourself," that it was when I got a 125. As soon as I had a Harley, she was like, "Oh, well, that's quite nice." And I was like, "What?" To go back just a second, when I was in my second year of university, I still remember that I was, down a YouTube rabbit hole as you go, as you do, and I came across episodes of Biker Build Off, and I started watching all of these episodes of Biker Build Off, and I'd never seen it before. I grew up watching shows like Orange County Choppers and stuff like that. I still remember, watching the original documentary, what was supposed to be a one-off of Orange County Chopper,
Right, yeah, oh yeah, me too.
And thinking, Jesus. Basically, when I found Biker Build Off, I was at a point in my life where I really wanted to get more into bikes, and I didn't feel like I had any access to it. And the thing was that watching those episodes of Biker Build Off, it made me realize, like, there's nothing magical about these people. These are just people who just literally just build bikes from scratch, and they do the most incredible work. The craftsmanship and the just the experience and the effort that goes into producing these incredible works in machinery. A big hero of mine is Indian Larry. Indian Larry is probably one of my favorite bike builders of all time, and I just think that he produces such incredible work, or produced. And it was difficult for me that through watching the show, I then found out that he died like 10 years before I even got into motorcycling, and I was devastated when I found out. Right. And I went back and I looked through a lot of his work, and it's just one of those things where, like, to me that that's a style that I love, and it's a level of attention to detail that I really respect. So basically, when I got into Biker Build Off, as I said, I was reading for a degree in history and politics at university, and I was enjoying it, but I'd kind of always had it in my mind that I was going to, sort of carry on into academia and become a lecturer or something like that, and go into teaching, because I loved history. I still do. And by the time I was halfway through my degree, I just realized, I was like, you know what, I don't think that I don't think it's right for me. And it was difficult because obviously, all of a sudden discovering Biker Build Off, and like I remember having a conversation with my mum around Christmas time, and saying to her, I want to become a custom bike builder. And she was like, what? Like, where did that come from?
The reason why I knew that you worked at Sykes is I was clicking through some of your links preparing for this interview, and I saw that, and the only reason I even know of Sykes is because of Moto Noob Rider, who's in your backyard and produces like all of his content, or a lot of his content, supported by Sykes. So I thought that was kind of cool that you kind of landed in that area, and now you're producing videos for Sykes for their YouTube channel. What do you see your long-term future with Harley going forward?
So I'll tell you a crazy story of how I ended up working for Sykes, because this is one of the most unbelievable things you'll ever come across in your whole life. So basically, I was at Flat Out Friday, the Mama Tried show, at the 115th. So I want you to imagine that this is the most ridiculous experience of my life, because I'm standing in this stadium. It's a basketball court, and they've taken up the basketball court, and they're racing motorcycles on a concrete track, which is just an oval that they've put down like Dr. Pepper syrup on it to make it sticky. And look, they don't have that in England. All right. So I was just like, this is ridiculous. And I'm watching these dudes racing, and when I'm telling you that, these guys and girls who were out there racing, they were smoking it. They were doing an incredible job. And earlier on in the week, because obviously I was one of the interns, I'd met the influencer and sort of fitness guru, Diana Dalgren. And so she spotted me in the pits. And basically between races, she was hosting. So, there was a camera in her face up on the Jumbotron. She was sort of, doing these kind of, whatever you want to call them, these pickup segments between the races while they were setting up, just to keep the crowd, entertained.
Right.
And so obviously she recognized me standing in the pits with the Harley guys, and she was literally like, you, here, come. And I was like, me? And just being a freaking typical goofball. And so I hopped over the side into the middle of the stadium. There's like, fuck knows how many thousands of people in the stadium. And like, both of my friends cheered. and I was like, I just obviously, as you would, immediately forgot every word of English that I know. And she starts asking me questions and whatever. And as soon as everyone heard that I was British, they were like, "Oh my God, he's British!" And you get a bit of that. And I was having a great time, to tell you the truth. I was getting interviewed on a jumbotron. I don't care who you are, but that is your dream. And even if you don't know it yet, that is your dream. So I'm coming off of this feeling like a rock star, and I went back into the pits, and basically I went back into the pits, and all of a sudden, right, this dude is like sliding through the barriers from the seats, from the arena seating into the pits. He's like sneaking in without a ticket, and like this. I don't know, he's probably 6'2", 6'3", great big bald guy. And it's like, I saw you getting interviewed on the Jumbotron. I'm Steve Willis from Sykes Harley-Davidson. I was like, oh my God, like this dude just snuck in from the stands. And he goes, oh yeah, who are you here with then? And I was like, oh, I'm here with the guys from the Harley social media team. And he was like, okay, cool. Well, go on then, introduce me. So I took him over, and they were like, "Oh my God, Speed and Custom!" And I thought that was incredible. That these people who work at the motor company in Milwaukee, all heard of Speed and Custom, and they were all talking about the builds that they've done over the years, the custom bikes, and he sort of said somewhat jokingly, he was like, "I'm going to give him a job when all of this is over." I kind of laughed it off. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where people say stuff like that, and you never know whether it's sincere or whether they're just having a bit of a joke. And I didn't know how seriously to take it. And he gave me a card, obviously. And so basically, when the internship came to an end, I gave him a ring. It was a very nervous phone call, and he said, "Look, come down." And so I went down to the dealership, and he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to be a mechanic. I've always wanted to be a mechanic." And it was at this point where he said to me, he was like, "Look, by all means, if you've got the technical skill and that's where your passion is, then let's look into that. But I want you to consider working in sales." And I'm not a salesman. I'd never even considered working in sales. And so I was quite confused by that. And I said to him, I was like, well, why is it that you think I should work in sales? And he said, you're dynamic, you're charismatic, you're very articulate. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't too sold on the idea. And he said, look, just try it for a little bit, see how you get on. And obviously, I was coming off the best summer of my life.
Right.
I was absolutely on cloud nine. I think that the internship meant something a little bit different to me because of the fact that it was my absolute dream to be working for Harley-Davidson. I went from that to trying to sell motorcycles in England in the winter. and I wasn't very good at it, but I say that. But the first motorcycle I ever sold was on December 19th, and I remember because it was hailing. So
that's a good salesman.
I mean, I started at the dealership in November. I did that for the best part of a year, and alongside that, I was trying to grow the social media channels, and basically an opportunity came up for me to move across into the workshop, and Steve said to me, he said, "Look, I know that this is what you said that you want to do. Are you still interested in doing it? I need someone who is well liked in the business and knows the business and all that jazz, and someone who I can depend on. And you've clearly got an ability. You've clearly got an enthusiasm for it. Do you want to go for it?" And that was it. That was me seizing it with both hands.
So you basically came into this internship different from what I understand of everybody else. They weren't really into the brand, so to speak, before. You kind of looked at this more or less, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of knew that you wanted to head in that direction, and this was just a huge, opportunity is an understatement for you to bridge those gaps. If you didn't come to the U.S. for that 115th and you didn't go to the flat track race, you wouldn't have ran into the guy from Sykes, and all these things just kind of snowballed into exactly where you're sitting today, which is where you want it to be. And that's, at this point, who cares about the Harley-Davidson Find Your Freedom internship and their success? It's a huge success for you, and that's awesome. That's really awesome.
It's one of those things where, like, when I tell people the story, they're just like, what the fuck? That's not real. I responded to a social media thing, and they paid me to go to motorcycle rallies for 3 months. You'd be like, what the fuck? No, they didn't. You'd never believe that story. So basically, I heard about Find Your Freedom because I graduated from university and I was working at a hardware store. I was doing a lot of construction work and stuff like that at the time. And I thought that working at this hardware store was going to help me build up my tools a bit because I got a staff discount or whatever, and I could work on my own bike and learn some stuff. And I was learning stuff from YouTube, and I was making friends in the bike world and whatever. And and to put it bluntly, I was broke as shit. I had approximately $0. There was one day where I got to work at 6:30 in the morning, and I was opening up this warehouse with my boss. And not long after that, it came on the news, and they were these like newscasters, when they talk about the funny stories at the end, and they were like, oh yeah, have you seen this thing in the paper today? Like, have you seen this? Harley-Davidson is giving young people the opportunity to, like, for the summer of a lifetime, they're going to ride across America on bikes, and they're going to give you a free motorcycle and whatever. And I remember that I was listening to this, and I was like, fuck, if that isn't the dream. And and my boss, Paul, this poor dude had to suffer. I was the worst employee ever. And this dude, I used to ride my Sportster to work, right? I had a bike license for 6 years before I had a car license. So he heard this thing on the radio, and he came up to me and he goes, oh my God, Tony, that sounds like your dream, doesn't it? Wouldn't you love to do that? And word for word, what I said to him was, yeah, Paul, I'd love to do that, but I fucking work here, don't I? And to be honest with you, that was it. Something funny that I noticed from the interview that you did with Brock was that Brock made a small error when he said that you had to do a video to apply, because I was the only one who didn't do a video.
Oh, really?
So everybody else did a video. Everybody else's videos were really good. So basically, I could not edit video. And I didn't even have Instagram. So, you were talking with Brock about how this was a bit of a flop as a social media thing.
Would you send him a letter? Would you send him a letter via carrier pigeon? How did you get into this thing?
No, son. This is not the 1840s. Obviously, I sent them a PowerPoint.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I basically, like, I'd done some work on a friend of mine. He had a 48, and we'd sort of done some stuff to it, and changed the seat, done a stage one, changed the pipes and the filter, and tuned it and whatever. And I had some photos of me doing that. And I literally kept it as brief as I could. And my front page was, I'm going to keep this as short as possible because I know that you've got millions of these. I think originally I was intending only to do like 2 or 3 slides or something like that. And I ended up sending them, I think it was 6 slides. And it was, bare minimum text and just a couple of photos of me going places with my bike, doing stuff on my bike, helping out my friends with their bikes, that kind of stuff. I submitted it at 2:00 in the morning, and I had to be up at work. I had to be up at 5 for work. And that was it. I submitted it, and I was like, at least now I can say I tried. And I think it was probably the best part of 6 weeks before I heard back. And I got this email. I was looking for another job, and I was working at the hardware store, and I found another job. And so I went into my old university to print off my resignation letter for my job, and I'd emailed it to myself. And I logged onto one of their computers so that I could use the printer, and I had another email waiting in my inbox from Harley saying, "Are you free for a Skype interview this afternoon?" I shit a brick. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I was even getting a callback or whatever you want to call it. I thought I would have been tossed into the junk pile. I do feel incredibly privileged out of 7,500 other applicants to have been one of 8. So yeah, it is an incredible privilege. And I, throughout most of the internship, and even beyond, if I'm being honest, I struggled quite a bit because I had major imposter syndrome. Because you had people like Brock, and Brock is I honestly love the James Dean comparison that you did in your last video, because I don't think that Brock could be more all-American, windswept hair, good-looking dude, if he tried. you've got people like him. You've got Alejandro, Space Cowboy. Again, he is the vision of being, a sort of motorcycle influencer. Like Tessa had like 9,000 followers. Charlie from South Africa, she had, I think, 5,500 followers for her sort of fashion and lifestyle travel blog.
Right.
So that call I got from Harley when I had that Skype interview, one of the questions that they asked me was, do you use social media? And I was under the impression from what I'd heard on the radio and what I'd read online that they were going to fly me out to the States and I was going to spend 3 months riding around with these other guys. We were going to go to Sturgis. We were going to go to Harley dealerships. We were going to be on the road for 3 months. And my understanding was there was going to be a film crew who were going to produce all of the content for us. And I didn't understand, obviously, that no, it's a social media internship. There is no camera crew. You are the camera crew. The difficulty for me then was that they asked me, do you use Instagram? And I was like, no. And as you can imagine, for a social media internship, that was a bit embarrassing because I came away from that and I was kicking myself. I was really kicking myself. And I found out, so basically what I did was I went home and I went on Instagram and I created an account and I posted some stuff. And like those early posts are horrible. I took a landscape shot and then I've posted it vertical and it's just like so bad. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I did not understand how to Instagram. So on the day when Harley announced it, about 2 weeks later, it moved very quickly once it started moving. But you got to bear in mind that I was actually contacted about a month after everyone else. I was contacted the week that everyone else went to Milwaukee.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was, the week before everyone else went to Milwaukee. So it was crazy. Everything was going at an insane pace. And I said to them about it. She said to me, she goes, the thing was that obviously we were conducting a full background check and, seeing what your social media channels were like. We were checking your social channels and we remembered that you told us in the interview you didn't have an Instagram, but then we found an Instagram. And so we checked it and we saw that your first post was the day of the interview. And we went, well, clearly he's shown some initiative there. He's realized that he needs to have an Instagram if he wants to do this properly. And he's trying to start it out, and it's one of those things where, again, like the lesson that I take away from that is it's never too late. The best time to start anything is now. And so on the day when Harley announced the internship, I had 12 Instagram followers.
You're at 2,500 now. That's solid. So you kind of grown quite a bit since then.
So in the 3 months of the internship, when I was traveling pretty much nonstop, I gained 1,500 followers in 3 months. So that was wild growth.
The age range for a buyer here in the U.S., their meat and potatoes is the guy who goes into a dealership, spends $35,000 on, a kitted out Street Glide and or like an Ultra or something like that. What is it in the UK? I mean, I was looking at Sykes' website, and I think I saw one CVO. There was no other touring bikes in their inventory. And is it in the UK? Is it just smaller bikes, cheaper bikes? And what is the age range that you find like the average customer in the UK?
In terms of dealer inventory in the UK, the first thing to say is that dealerships in the UK tend to be a hell of a lot smaller. I was absolutely blown away when I went to the States. The size and the scale of the dealership in America is just ridiculous.
So I actually hate the size of dealerships here in the U.S. My local dealership in Scottsdale here that I bought my bike from is like Disney World. The place is enormous, and I feel like the smaller shops are a little bit more personal, in my opinion. And I kind of wish that Harley had maybe a little bit more of like that experience of you go in and there's a couple sales guys that help you out, as opposed to you go in and the place is just overwhelmingly huge with 15,000 motorcycles on the floor. It seems a little excessive, but I digress.
Yeah, I mean, so no, honestly, I think you've raised some very interesting points there. And so the first thing I would say is, generally speaking, I would say that the demographic of Harley is, broadly speaking, very similar to what it is in the United States. The majority of like Hog chapter members, the majority of people who have been riding for a long time, they are riding bigger bikes, touring bikes specifically. some of them are riding CVOs. The whole sort of performance bagger thing isn't as big here as it seems to be in the States. But yeah, by no means is it completely different in that sense. What I will say is that my personal experience from living in central London up until a few years back is the fact that there is no space for a CVO Ultra in the streets of London. It's not,
I figured
it's not how it works. One of the reasons that I love my Sportster is the fact that I can scoot about through the traffic, because we can lane split here that you guys can't. Sportsters are unbelievably popular out here. Of course they sell well in the States as well because of the fact that they're smaller displacement bikes. They're cheap and economical to run, and they're easy to get into. I would definitely say that because of the fact that we've got a shorter riding season here, so our riding season really is only from I'd say probably March if you're lucky, April through till sort of maybe October for most people. I'd say that because of the bad weather that we have here throughout the winter, it's definitely a reason that people spend less on their bike. Even the fact that it pours with rain here, a lot of the time throughout spring and summer is another reason. Like to go back to your point about the size of dealerships. So the Sykes dealership is sort of mid-sized as Harley dealerships go in the UK, but you've still definitely got that sort of smaller dealership kind of feeling. And it's interesting because something that makes us unique as being an independent dealership, no one in the dealership is on commission. So when you walk into the door, the salespeople aren't incentivized to go and sort of be jumping on you in the same way as they would be if they were relying on you to pay their mortgage.
Right.
But what we tend to find with that is that it means, for a start, that people can trust the dealership staff more, and they don't feel like they're constantly trying to be upsold. With a smaller dealership, I think it feels a lot less imposing. You mentioned earlier about female riders, like Megan and Tessa, and a lot of people say to me when they come to the dealership, they're like, "This is not what I was expecting at all." They've got this idea from watching Sons of Anarchy or whatever that they're going to come into the dealership, and that all Harley dealerships are going to be some kind of MC clubhouse, and that they're all going to be hardcore, and they're going to be like, you don't belong here, man. Like, you don't look like this.
Right.
And like I will never forget this till the day that I die. When I was still working in sales, it was sort of the end of summer last year. And so there was like 5 or 6 of these 17-year-olds who'd all showed up on like little scooters or small motorbikes. And to put it bluntly, I think because they were a bit nervous, they were all sort of like really crammed together, and they all sort of like walked in like penguins and sort of walked into the dealership. I was just like, "Hey guys, you all right? Like, how you guys getting on? You got any questions, anything like that?" And they were sort of just like, "Oh no, we're just looking. Is that all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine, dude. Like, just have a browse. Like, if you want to sit on anything, let me know. Like, if you want to try anything out, whatever. Like, if you got any questions, just go for it." And they were like, "Oh, cheers, man. Yeah, like, no, I really appreciate that." And I was like, "Yeah, we got donuts around the corner. We got a coffee machine. Like, help yourself. Like, you want a cup of coffee or a tea or anything?" And they was like, "Oh, really? Like, what, for free?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, just help yourself." And they just kind of couldn't believe it. And at that precise moment, the song "Toxic" by Britney Spears came on over the stereo, and they were like, "This place is not what we were expecting." And I think that's the biggest thing, is I think so many people have got the stereotype in their mind, and I get it all of the time. That people say to me, they're like, "Oh yeah, but I'm not a Harley rider." And I'll put it as bluntly as I can, right? The only thing that you need to be a motorcyclist of any description is a motorcycle.
Absolutely.
There is no other criteria. And I don't care if you're riding, a 50cc motorcycle from, the 1920s. Like, I don't care. If you are on 2 wheels, we're friends. That's cool. Something that I would definitely say to people is that and something that I've tried to shine a light on through my content personally in the time that I've been working for Harley, and it was something that I was very passionate about right from the very beginning, is that, like, so basically, it's getting women into riding and getting more ethnic minorities into riding, because it's two groups who are disproportionately underrepresented. Women are the fastest growing motorcycle demographic, in motorcycling. And the bottom line of it is, and this comes back to a broader point. So again, why are younger people underrepresented in motorcycling as a whole, let alone Harley-Davidson? I would say it boils down to a couple of things. And I would say that the most important thing is that when I was growing up, I was told, do not get a motorcycle because they're dangerous. And I did not listen. But, like a lot of, millennials, Gen Z or whatever you want to call it, like a lot of people these days, when someone says to them, motorcycling is dangerous, they go, well, motorcycling is dangerous, I better not do that then. I think that one of the big difficulties is that a lot of younger people, in my opinion, are very good at sticking to rules, which is not necessarily something I was great at. But it's, again, it comes back to one of those things. I think that a lot of people, when they think of, as you said, a Harley-Davidson rider, they go, that's not really me. All stereotypes have an origin, but that doesn't necessarily make them true. It's something that I came up against, and this was something that I used to love doing, and I'm a bit of a dick, I'll admit, was that people used to come up to me and, they'd meet me in a social situation or, at a party, gym, whatever, and they would say, someone would introduce them, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, this is Tony. I'd be like, oh, hi, how's it going? And they'd have a chat with me, and after a few minutes, then we got chatting, and they're like, oh, this guy's cool, and they'd calm down a bit, and they'd sort of go, dude, I've seen you around campus and stuff, man. I always thought you were a real dick. and I would just be like, yeah, but why? And they were like, oh, but man. And I'm like, no, I don't. And it's one of those things where a lot of people have got this image in their mind. At the time I was 215 pounds. I used to train a lot when I was younger. And, you come in there with a beard and a mohawk and riding a Harley, and people are like, ooh, I want to stay away from this dude.
I got you pegged. Yep. I know what you're all about.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those things where, I would say to people that, don't be afraid of going into a dealership, they're not anything like what, that image that a lot of people expect them to be. And, equally, with Harley, I've met the most incredible people through motorcycling. I've met people of all ages, colors, genders, sexual orientations, whatever. There is absolutely no barrier in terms of who is welcome. And to be honest with you, I think that a lot of people, they say, the older generation, they seem to have a problem with younger Harley riders and stuff like that. That's not my experience at all. My experience with the older core demographic of Harley riders is they're all dying for younger people to get into motorcycling, And I think, everyone recognizes how important it is for younger people to get into riding if we want this brand that we all love to continue, And I think that's really important. And the social element of social media for me is that I always try and shine a spotlight on other people who I think are doing a great job. Something that I've noticed that's interesting is that photos of me on my Instagram do better than photos that don't have me in them. If I post a photo of just a bike and I'm not in it, it doesn't do well. If I post the exact same photo of me standing next to the bike, it does really well. And it comes back to this whole thing about, selfies. People used to go to a monument and they take a photo of the monument and they'd be like, oh yeah, look, this is when I went to, the pyramids. And these days, everyone turns up there and they're boom, take a selfie, because they're like, it's more important for me to be in the photograph than for me to get a really great photograph of this, this.
Yeah, it's all about the people now. Everything's about the people, not the object, I guess you'd say. So everybody's actually interested in the people behind the story, which is a cool time to be alive, really. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and much like Brock said, the thing is that these days, Jesus Christ, the level of content these days, the quality of the stuff that is being produced is unheard of. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. A big part of what I try and do is always to showcase and to make content accessible for people. And content is more accessible than ever before. I mean, the videos that I do with the dealership, it's all about trying to give people as much information as I possibly can in the shortest video possible. Because to my mind, if the video is more than about 10 minutes long for a sort of an introduction to a bike, people aren't interested.
Right.
And the thing is, if you're completely new to motorcycling, then you quite often you need someone to give you a bit of a pointer and to say to you, look, okay, well, it's great that you like this 240 rear tire on a Fat Boy, but they don't handle great. Like, if you want something that's going to look cool but still going to handle well, maybe you should be looking at a Fat Bob instead, or something like that. And, but yeah, I mean, it's all about trying to make things accessible and inclusive. Yeah,
cool. So I appreciate you coming on the channel. It's really awesome. So if you want to just plug your Instagram, let everybody know where they can find your content.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I've really appreciated chatting with you. It's been good fun, actually. And my Instagram's Tony the Biker. If you want to plug that, that's pretty much the place to find me. And if you want to see the YouTube videos that I've been doing about different models of Harleys and the differences between them, then check out the Sykes HD YouTube channel.
So thank you very much, Tony. I am going to link all of those social media channels in the description down below. I do suggest you guys go and check them out. It's a pleasure speaking with Tony, and I really appreciate, as I've said in all my videos, the time that these interns have given me to discuss their experiences. I am forever grateful for that, and thank you guys very much for watching them. It seems to be that people are really enjoying this content in particular. So with that being said, guys, if this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.